Hello there, it's Lisa Starr with another episode of StarrCast Podcast. We've been talking about the challenges in wellness and the great opportunities we've had in the past year. COVID has definitely brought people's attention into the need for personal care and wellness provided by spas and wellness centers. But the problem remains that we just don't seem to have enough people to deliver the services, and in particular in massage. So, pondering that greater question, I thought I would reach out to someone I know who's the biggest massage expert on the world stage that I could think of, and that is CG Funk. She is joining us today from her home office in Arizona. CG is currently, remind me of your title, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the Senior Vice President of Culture and Industry Relations for Massage Heights.
CG is currently the Vice President of Industry Culture and Relations for Massage Heights, which is a franchise. Was that right?
No, Senior Vice President of Culture and Industry Relations.
Got it.
Okay.
CG is currently the Senior Vice President of Culture and Industry Relations for Massage Heights, which is a growing massage franchise, but her franchise experience goes way back. And she started life as a massage therapist. So let's welcome CG Funk to the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Lisa, thanks for having me. It's great to see you.
You too. Gosh, it's been so long since we've got to spend time together in the same place. Where did I see you last? Perhaps it was at iSpa?
Yeah, I would imagine that was it.
So CG, like I said, and no, I wasn't blowing smoke. You certainly are the most versed massage therapist and that I know. And so I thought, let's talk to someone whose roots are really in this and get some insight onto what's happening in the massage industry. You started off life as a massage therapist, yes?
I did.
I mean, you weren't born that way, but when you became old enough.
I did. I went to massage therapy school in 1991, coming out of a career in sales and marketing that just wasn't doing it for me. So I was very attracted to the work after receiving some amazing massage therapy services. And so I graduated from school in 92.
So you had another career before massage?
I did. I was in sales and marketing for ski resorts, if you can imagine. Life is so tough, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Yeah. One fun job to another. So right. You didn't like the sales environment? Like, what was it that didn't speak to you?
Well, if you go back to when I was in my early 20s, I had a friend buy me a gift certificate for massage. And Lisa, this was a long time ago, so people weren't just giving gift cards out for massage. And I was blessed enough to have this session with a Hawaiian healer, shaman, and he worked on me for 3 hours, and I got off that table and I was never the same. And I thought, I need to learn to do that. But back then I didn't know there were schools you could go to learn it. And so it took several more years before I actually found my way to massage school, but I had been looking at it for years.
It's funny what you say about how massage wasn't known. I mean, when I started in the industry, I worked at a salon that was trying to become a spa, and we did massages, but no one wanted them. They were afraid, like, why would I go in a room with a strange person? And, we had to include them in packages in order to sell them, which I just thought was so funny. But nowadays, of course, everybody does want the massage.
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting to see how that started kind of elite and then came down to just us working folks, right? So, massage popularity obviously started growing in the 60s and 70s, kind of in these circles of alternative circles, per se, through the movements that happened in that time.
So then, you realized that you had to go to a school, like to learn this.
Yeah. Yes,
because that wasn't always obvious either. We used to have job applicants that say, my boyfriend says I give a really good massage. And it was like, oh, but you do need to have a certificate,
Yeah, you have to be done. But back then, a lot of states didn't even have licensing. So it was, people could actually set up a table, without a license and start giving massage. Of course, that's all changed in the many years since.
Yes, luckily, I guess I should say. It helps to have a little knowledge of anatomy and physiology.
Right.
So you left the sales job, you went to massage school, or did you do that simultaneously?
Yeah, well, I went in the evening. So of course you still have to work, as a young professional. So I went in the evening, and then I graduated, and I told myself that I was going to be in it 100%, and that I would not work outside of the spa, massage, or wellness industry. Of course, wellness wasn't a word back then. So I just made that commitment. So in my early days, you're trying to piece together a career that isn't really even considered a career. So you work in 7 days a week, and sorry, I should start over because my phone went off. I thought I turned it off. It's my watch. Okay, let me start. So yes, so I graduated. Let's see, I'll start over. So yes, I actually worked full time while I went to school. I was lucky enough to find a program that was offered in the evenings. So I did that. And then when I graduated, I just made a commitment that I wasn't going to work outside this profession. And I committed myself 100%. So back in those days, you had to really hustle because it wasn't like there were any jobs for massage therapists. So I remember working 7 days a week in a variety of things, from having my own practice to doing the Cliff Spa at Snowbird in the winter season, to teaching, to teacher assistant, and then to teaching. Even doing some outcalls. I started a small business in Salt Lake called Onsite Salt Lake, which offered seated massage chair at the convention center. It was things like
wow,
that.
You were way ahead of your time.
Putting a career together, because you're hustling, you got to make it work. So
what did your family say about this change?
They were not excited about it at all. It's funny because I look back now, and of course everybody knows what massage is and spa is, but back then my family just thought I was taken a wrong turn, just say. So they were not, it was just, you're doing what? Okay, whatever. And so in 2012, I was given the Lifetime Achievement Award by a group called One Concepts. And it's interesting because they held it in San Diego, and my family, and I'm from San Diego, so my family all came, and I warned them ahead of time I wasn't going to thank them because they didn't really support my career in the early. It's kind of a joke, but I said I acknowledged they were there, but I didn't say that they
fully supported me in this endeavor.
Right, yeah. So it was definitely, I definitely took a turn where I didn't have much support in my life on this choice. So I was lucky to find a classroom of fellow students and a school and a lot of people involved in kind of this subculture that supported that. And that's why I think I was able to stick with it that whole time, because of that.
Plus, I guess it felt right to you. I mean, you felt like you were making the right choice inside of yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I look at, and we're going to get into this later, but I look at the career today. And when I went to school, and for many years in the 90s, it was a calling. That's what we called it. You were called to do this work, this healing, beautiful hands-on healing work. And it's since become kind of pragmatic. So that idea of surrounding myself with people that were also called to do it, when everything in the other side of the world was telling you that that's not a good choice.
Well, that speaks to the sort of deep-seated, almost earnestness of many people that deliver massage. They do feel called to it, and they believe strongly in what they do, as they should. I mean, it's a magical profession. But if you don't have massages or get massages, you may not realize just how transcendent it can be.
And it's accumulative. So in other words, you can have a massage a year and feel great in that moment. But the more you receive once a month, have a cadence for it, kind of committing to this self-care, wellness regimen, the more you will see the benefits of that over time and over the years. So it's not just a one and done type of thing. I mean, this is a choice, and it's a lifestyle, much like how we eat and how we exercise and how we rest and sleep. I mean, receiving these types of modalities are super important to our overall health. And research tells us that. Like, you look at research, it shows the benefits. I mean, it's really profound when you look at what that research is telling us are the benefits of these hands-on techniques. It's amazing.
I want to mention for listeners that if you go to wellnessevidence.com, it's one of the sites monitored by and started by the Global Wellness Institute, and you can click on wellness modalities, 20 or 30 of them, including massage, and you can see the studies on how it lowers blood pressure, it reduces stress. So obviously, it eases muscular aches and pains and just makes you feel good. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Right. And they're even finding now, I was talking to Dr. Tiffany Field a few months ago, and they're even finding this research about the nervous system receptors under the skin that go directly to the brain. It's like, oh, no wonder that's creating those results, because it's like we think we know everything about the human body, but we really don't. And every year, science is learning more about how this whole thing works and functions.
So that power of touch is directly wired to our brain.
Yeah.
And it speaks to why babies flourish so much better when they're touched as babies, right?
Right. They do. Yeah. And Dr. Field created those first research studies on premature infants in touch. And I believe they showed 40% better growth with the babies, the preemies that were given touch and massage.
That's substantial.
That weren't. Yeah. Yeah.
So for you at the beginning, CG, you were driving around with a massage table in your car. Are you working at a venue or many of them? How did you stitch it together?
Yeah, so I did. I had I had my own little office, and I also, again, I worked at the Cliff Spot Snowbird in the winter season, because it's a big ski resort there at Snowbird. And then I did some out calls, kind of higher end, not just, anyone. And then the school that I went to offered me a teacher assistant position. So I was able to assist teachers and then eventually move into teaching. So I taught several classes for this school throughout the years. I helped develop curriculum and write curriculum and help put programs together. So I got a really rich bucket of experience just doing that in the 90s into the 2000s. And I think it's interesting that most people don't know about my career before franchising. I'm always, they say, massage or spa franchising, and that's where they think my whole career was.
Right.
But I had 13, 14 years experience in the industry before I even got into franchising.
Well, that's probably how you helped make it successful, right? You had a knowledge of what it took to be in the treatment room, which is just not something you can understand if you've never done it.
Right. Exactly.
So 13 years doing massage, and then you had the opportunity to learn at that time at school about the business side of it as well. Yes.
Right.
So that was really helpful to you, because when you're a therapist, you think about your relationship with the guest and your focus on that. And you're not thinking so much about the margin or how much oil am I using or how many linens or, but that's also an important part for the business.
It is. And it's the crossover, between understanding what kind of work is being done, but understanding those business aspects that make that profitable and sustainable.
So at this point in your career, you're teaching at the school, you're working as a therapist, what led you to go the next step?
Well, I moved to Arizona, and we had two massage therapy colleges here in Arizona, and I came down here to run those. So the president had left, and so they asked me, if I wanted to do it. So I ended up running one school full time, helping run another school as an interim director, and then helping to run the Vegas campus as an interim director. And in all this time, I was also traveling to 7 of our campuses and doing teacher training to teach teachers how to teach, basically.
My goodness.
So, yeah. So that was also, I ended up here. And so in 2005, the owner of the Utah College of Massage Therapy Family of Schools, which I was associated with, was selling the schools. And so I decided that it was time maybe for something different. And at that exact time, it's just really interesting, is that the founders of Massage Envy contacted me, because I had known one of them for many years. He was actually a student of mine back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And they said they were creating a position for this franchise model, which I didn't even know anything about franchising or.
Right. You're like, what's that?
But it was just a good timing, because I'm like, yeah, why not? That sounds like a good next career move. So when I joined the Massage Envy brand, there were 30 locations open. And I was with them for 10 years. And when I left, there were 1,100 locations.
That's just stunning, absolutely stunning. So 2005, there's 30 locations. What was your mandate? What did they say? How big, did they know how big they wanted it to get? What was your purpose?
No, I just think that it's one of those Cinderella stories, really. I mean, you look at what was happening. So kind of back up a little bit, because massage and wellness was starting to gain momentum towards the end of the 20th century, right? And so that was happening. And so more people were becoming interested in how we can take better care of ourselves without going medical routes. And then in 2002, this book hits the stand. It's called The Wellness Revolution. And I don't know if you remember that book or not, but it was basically what it predicted was the wellness industry would be the first $1 trillion industry of the 21st century. And so that was written by an economist. And so that was happening. And then also what was happening is there were a lot of folks that had worked in the IT industry and technology industry in the 90s. And they had helped start these companies, or helped grow these companies like Apple or Microsoft or Dell. And they were cashing out. Their equity and, closing their career out there. So there was a lot of people that had a lot of money basically from this. And those folks, and I'm not saying that was all the franchisees, but that was enough of them to help grow this industry, or to grow the massage franchise. So what happened is that one person would find out, and then they'd tell their friends in the tech industry. And then all of a sudden we have these regional developers coming kind of a lot from the same industry, buying up these regions that then they sold the franchises in those regions. So it was just a convergence of several things happening all at once. And then to make it even more interesting is that at that time, there were more massage therapists graduating school between 99 and 2005 than there had ever been in the history of massage college and students. So there was tens of thousands of therapists looking for work and needing a job. And so that helped grow and spur this industry as well. So that idea of this influx, in fact, I think the statistic was between 99 and 2005, massage graduates grew 106% year over year.
Amazing.
So it was just, everything came together kind of at the right
like time. A perfect storm of positive wellness and massage focuses. I never thought about that. What you said, it's really fascinating about the West Coast sort of tech money funding this. I mean, things always seem to start on the West Coast, especially if they're wellness or personal, and drift east. But maybe the tech executives were so burned out, also that they recognized the need for it. But really fascinating that that's how the growth was funded.
Yeah, and they, it was more of like taking your golden parachute, right, and then retiring from an industry for 10 years or so that had done amazingly well, and using that money to filter it through your own business. I mean, that was some of our original regional developers. So, and then again, it was that interest. People were interested in getting into their own business, and they liked the idea of doing it via some kind of business that had to do with wellness. And there weren't any before then.
No, it's true.
The market, right? So it was, again, I think perfect storm is a good way to put it, because yes, it was positive, but it was a storm, for many years, right? Because it just all came so fast and furious.
So how did you know how to manage that? I mean, you knew how to do massage and what the important parameters were for a successful business, but to scale from 30 locations, I mean, how did you know what to do?
Well, first of all, we had a good executive team. So there was like 7 of us on the executive team. And, some of them were in charge, like the VP of ops was in charge of the operational side and the VP of training in charge of training. So my title there was product development, basically, industry relations and product development. So we learned as we went. Lisa, I swear, like you could not even prepare for this. Now, keep in mind that I had been writing curriculum, programs, policies, and procedures during my career as a teacher and a program developer in the massage world. So a lot of this didn't come new to me, but I think what it was, what I ended up bringing to the table was I had a deep understanding of what happened in the back of the house, what happens behind those closed doors, what are the massage therapists providing, what do we need to keep everybody safe, what are some great services we could offer to enhance that overall therapeutic experience. So it was a huge learning for me those whole 10 years. I mean, just making stuff up basically is how we were successful.
Well, and I'm sure you were the only person of those 7 that had back of house experience.
I was, but you need all the other aspects of the business too. So, it was just like, if you look at our national, we were probably the first brand to nationally advertise for massage therapists. We had our own career site. It was massageandcareers.com. Like we created all these industry programs to where we sponsored association work and did charitable donations and volunteer leadership, like all of this to show that we were good industry stewards and that to promote our careers. I mean, we developed like these campaigns that were never seen before.
I can remember when Massage Envies started popping up and spa owners were like, what's that? What they were wary and they thought they're going to take our business. But we quickly learned that they helped our businesses because more people, it sort of democratized massage, CG, right? And more people were getting them and then wanting them in different venues.
Right.
So I think it only helped. What was your perspective?
Oh, I think it was a missing dynamic in the whole spa world. I mean, I think we can still be a little elite in our approaches. And I see that all the time, that I think every human being needs massage. And so brands like Massage Envy or Massage Heights that I'm with now offer a solution to that is affordable for people that, work hard every day and raise their families and need that type of work. So I was always seen as kind of the devil, though, in all.
Well,
I had to put up with a lot of battles, and it wasn't like I would fight back, but I would stand there and, try and rationalize people's extreme dislike for the brand and what it was doing and what it stood for, because there was a lot of pushback.
That wasn't very nice for you.
No, it wasn't. I've always seemed to be in that position, though. It's really interesting,
Well, I was going to share a story when I remember it was like Massage Envy totally arrived, and it was at the Global Wellness Summit in Bali in 2011. And you were on a panel on the stage, and I don't remember the topic of the panel, but you in your nice way said, yes, we're growing this franchise and we have, I don't know, at the time, 850 locations. And yes, they each do $1 million in business. And you could have heard a pin drop in that room. Yeah. I still remember it. It was like people went, what did she just say? I mean, we're doing almost $1 billion, $100 million in massage business. Like what? It was such a great moment. Do you remember that?
Oh, I totally remember it. I think I remember it was 675 million was the, I don't know why I remember that, but it was somewhere around there. And I know it was people, what they were asking is to talk about our businesses. And they had other folks on the panel that were from different businesses. And they asked about revenues. And so, I didn't feel like that was something that we should hide.
No.
Although some of the other panelists didn't want to go there, right? But so I just said it. And there were some gasps in the audience, because I think that when you look at a franchise brand like this, like it was, and still is, it's like you don't realize, like 850 at the time, spread out across America, you're not seeing them on every corner, right? So it's not right. But then when it's all accumulated up, it's like, yeah, that's a really strong business model, guys.
Yeah, you got everyone's attention from that moment on. We were like, oh, okay, this is a good thing for our industry.
Right.
So that was 2011. You continued the growth with Massage Envy. You said when you left, there were 1,100 units?
Yeah, a little over 1,100.
And what year was that, CG?
I left in the beginning of 2016.
And what was the impetus for your departure?
So I had been working and traveling for the previous 10 years plus, and my mom was getting old. And so I just needed to slow down and just spend time with her. So I decided to do consulting part-time, and then I go to San Diego once a month to spend time with my mom. So I got like a wonderful 5 years out of that. And yeah, she passed away last year, but it was a really great time for me to spend time with her and just to revisit who I am and, just restart.
I was very appreciative of you to back away when you were basically at the top of your game.
I know, but I've never really played by normal rules. So I'm just like, if you think about, I just knew it was time and I thought about it. And then I gave my notice to our then CEO, who asked me to stay 8 months. So I worked 8 more months to help with the transition, because I didn't want to leave anybody high and dry. And, we kept it on the down low.
That was very generous of you to give your time that way.
Yeah. But I really cared about our franchisees and their success. And I knew that this was going to be an upset for them, because it, with a franchise model like ours, there's always changes. We had gone through 4 ownership groups in my 10 years.
Goodness.
So, when an executive leaves, it's a big change. So I wanted to make sure that everything was in order and that it could be a smooth transition.
So what was it like stepping back from those kinds of demands into just being able to call the shots on your day? How did that feel?
Well, it was quite a transition for I would say a couple of years, Lisa. I mean, you get going so fast in something, and this, mine was my career, and it's you're retraining yourself to slow down, and that's a trend. It's not something that happens, you flip the switch and it happens overnight. So it took me a while to realize that I had some great career opportunities. I had been able to accomplish a lot of great things with the teams that I worked with. But I had kind of left myself behind in all of that. So it was more of a, how can I get back to a place of homeostasis in myself so that I can keep working and giving. And this idea of slowing down, we don't normally do that in the middle of our careers from an executive role, but it was probably one of the most valuable, choices I made in my years of working.
Did you go back into delivering massages in that time?
No, I didn't. And it's funny, I thought about it, but I had enough work with consulting, and I also didn't want to book up my schedule too much because of my mom. But I still hold a license in Arizona, and I'm certified in California. So when I do officially retire, I'm going to do massage on the side.
Okay, well, we'll wait for that. I'll book my appointment now. So you did consulting, and you traveled a bit. Didn't you buy an RV or something? Do I remember that?
I did. That's so funny. You remember that? I bought a tiny trailer. They're called these little teardrop trailers.
Mhm.
So, I traveled around with that and did some camping and, had fun with that for a few years. Did some different things that didn't have anything to do with spa massage. Things like I took a poetry hiking trip to Ireland, and I took a songwriting workshop up in outside of Monterey, trying to remember the name of that place. I did things that were just totally different
Good for
from
you.
being absorbed in the spa and wellness industry. They were outside of that. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you had time to work on yourself. We don't always have that. What what happened, to draw you back into the corporate fold?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of retiring. So I'm like, so there's a woman that I worked with, Susan Borso. She was the chief marketing officer at Massage Envy for 5 years, 5 of the years I was there. And she had recently been named the CEO and president of Massage Heights. And so she called me last July, like over a year ago now, and wanted me to do some consulting. So I went into the office, met some of their committee members and, franchisees, and we did some work that day. And then a couple of weeks later, she's like, "We really want you to come on board." And I go, "Well, can I just consult for the rest of the year and we can talk about it next year?" And she's like, "I really just want you on full time."
Yeah.
And so, we talked through it and figured out the deal. And then I decided to accept the position. There's a couple reasons. I love working with her. She's amazing. The team that she has supporting her at the corporate office are amazing. But I also thought it's a great opportunity to change my focus in a position to mentoring and coaching the next generation that will take over, as opposed to me being in the midst of all of it. So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Mm-hmm. No, I think as we age, we realize we're having this discussion amongst consultants, and who will the next wave of consultants be? There's nowhere to go to school to learn to be a spa consultant. There's not a college course for that, right? So we have to, those of us that are doing it have to groom the next batch.
I do, and I really feel like that's really important. So I have, some staff that work for me, and, that's really my focus, is to help grow this business, and have it more successful, even more successful and sustainable, but also teach those folks that are going to take over.
I hope they know how lucky they are.
Oh, thanks.
How many Massage Heights locations are there currently?
We have 120.
Mm-hmm.
So much smaller than what I'm used to.
Manageable number.
I love it. It's just sweet. And our franchisees are amazing people, and they have amazing staff. We just got done with our franchise conference in September that was incredibly successful. And so we're gearing up for a good year next year.
That's great. So, as we talked about earlier, massage, everyone wants it. We don't have any issue now explaining to consumers why they should have it. It is the number one in demand service in pretty much any spa around the world. And yet, massage therapists, we're not seeing them apply for positions the way we did. So I'd love to talk about whether you think there are less in school, or is it that people just don't want to work in a spa setting, or they don't want to be fixed to a schedule, or is it a little bit of everything? I mean, where are they going and how will we get them back? Let's tackle that one.
I think it's interesting to note that when I entered this profession, first of all, we had to convince people to get massage.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of therapists out there convincing people to get massage. And so I've seen this whole flip, in 30 years of now we're trying to convince people to go to school to become a massage therapist. So first of all, kudos to everyone in the spa and massage industry, because you did a great job of convincing the average American to get massage.
Indeed.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think there's a couple of things that have happened here. First of all, there's more demand for these services than ever before. So that's just without saying. So I don't think even 20 years ago, we had enough therapists to to match this demand. So that's just first and foremost. Second, I don't believe we've done a good job of framing what a career as a massage therapist is. And I think that's all marketing and PR, because you've got a career now. This is a career. It's not just a job. And it looks different in the 21st century than it did in the last century. It's a totally different look, feel, requirements, all of that.
Well, how is it different?
It's more professional. It's more safe. Your average therapist is younger. You can have more career opportunities. You can make more money. It's more sustainable. It's more schedulable. So when I went to school, man, it was just a crapshoot. But today there's a lot to say about what this looks like. And the interesting thing is the benefits are more understandable. So in other words, you have somebody that says, I'm a sports massage therapist and I work with athletes. You know what that is. And you know that that's really important for those athletes. And so across the board, it's just a different profession. It's not that it takes a different personality, but it's a more acceptable profession now.
More acceptable, but maybe from what you're saying, it's also more, I'm using quotations, corporate, like you wear a uniform and you have a schedule, and it was not so rigid before.
Yeah, I think the word acceptable meant, what I mean by the word acceptable was acceptable through the consumer. The work itself is accepted, like it's wanted. Yes. That's what I meant by acceptable. I probably used the wrong word there. But there's this idea of, here's what I say to people. I say, if your 18-year-old daughter came to you and said, Mom, I know what I want to do. I want to go to massage school. Most reactions are, what? It's still this kind of, I don't know about that, right? Although that mom or dad might receive massage on a regular basis, that perception hasn't shifted. Now, if your 18-year-old daughter said, I really want to go to cosmetology school, you have a different reaction to it. Or I want to go to aesthetic school. You're going to have a different reaction to it. For some reason, there's this psychological reaction to the career of massage. So we're not marketing. We don't have the marketing. We don't have the PR. We're not showing that these are long-term sustainable careers. And we don't have the amount of schools in our country today that we had 20 years ago.
So it's another perfect storm of circumstances conspiring against people becoming a massage therapist.
Yeah, and I believe there's going to be a renaissance here. So there's a lot of people focusing on this, working on it. And it's funny because I think back in 2012, I brought in all these leaders from the massage and spa industry. I called it the meeting of the minds. And I said, look, we have a problem. We're going to have a problem with having enough massage therapists at the end of the day to provide services. Lisa, this was 10 years ago. I brought them all in, and everybody left that room thinking that's just a massage envy problem. That's not our problem.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I saw the writing on the wall back then. I saw the schools closing. I saw population dropping, and I saw demand rising. So it was kind of this demand leading supply versus supply leading demand. So,
well, your point was really interesting about how parents react, though, because you're right. Those parents have probably had massages and appreciate what they do. Why would they not want their children to do that? I mean, maybe it is marketing. I don't know that cosmetology is looked on any better, to tell you the truth, but I'm thinking about when you look at the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers, I think massage is under healthcare, right? And cosmetology is not, it's under personal services. And maybe we have to consider massage as, a health giving career, not just something frivolous. I don't know.
It's interesting too, because BLS and I have a long history of back in 2007 or 8, I sent them an email, not thinking I was even going to get a message back about how they had the information about massage careers all wrong. that they needed to update it. And they actually called me.
Did they?
So for years, I worked with BLS every year to get their numbers in. But the tricky part about BLS is they base everything on a 40-hour work week.
Right.
And so when they're showing like salaries, massage therapists show lower, but it really is only for 25 hours of work,
Exactly.
not 50 hours of work. So it's not real. It doesn't paint a good picture of really what massage therapists earn.
Yes, we should be clear for listeners that your average massage therapist works about 20 to 25 hours a week. They cannot do 40 hours of massage. It's much too taxing.
Right.
Most can do 3 to 5 per day, maybe 4 days a week, and that's it. So, but you're right. You're looking at that annual number and not realizing that you've got another 15 hours a week to do something else with your time.
Yeah. Right. Raise your kids, go to school, do it in retirement. Like that's what I think, it's such a great career because of that, because it's, the flexibility of it and you're not, toiling away 40 to 50 hours a week and that kind of thing.
Do you think you need a certain amount of personal strength to do it? Like, does an older person adapt to doing massages?
I just think it's just dependent on the person, really themselves, if they've stayed in good shape and, but it really is like, I don't know, for me, there's so many places you can take the career. I just interviewed Eric Dalton, who's like world famous in the massage world, internationally known for teaching. And he was like, these hands, you can take them anywhere. It's the most amazing career. And it's true, and there's things about, you're not going to be outsourced.
No.
Outsource hands. I mean, so we had this great conversation, but we need to do a better job. And I believe it. I come from a marketing background. I believe it's marketing and PR at the end of the day.
No, I think you're right. I think that we need to do a better job as an industry promoting that there is an excellent career path and earning opportunities in that path towards massage. You mentioned you had that conversation. You should share with listeners that I'm sure it was for your own podcast.
Yeah, I do. I'd love to. Thanks, Lisa. So I have a virtual show and podcast. It's called Outside the Room. We drop episodes every month, and the programming is designed for massage therapists and estheticians to support their work and honor their careers. So we're really excited about it.
Well, it's great. I've listened to many of the episodes and they're really well done. So if you want to learn more about the insides of massage, I definitely think you should give it a listen. So CG, what's the 5-year plan for you?
Well, 5 years from now, I'm hoping to be up in the mountains hiking my dog every day. So I'm looking at, I don't have an exit plan right now. I'm just really thrilled to be working with Massage Heights and this brand and all the people I get to work with. We're doing a lot of great things. We just put our strategic plan together for next year and the year after. So that's exciting. And I would imagine 5 years from now, I will probably be somewhat retired, but we'll see.
We'll see about that. So let's in closing, think of 3 things that a business that wants to employ massage therapists could do to attract them. Like what calls to action can we create here if you are the owner of a spa or a massage business and you really want to attract more therapists? What can you do?
Well, culture is everything in my book. Today, this type of practitioner has a lot of choices. So, I say culture because I don't just mean the culture that you build and support employees, but I also, during the interview process, you want to make sure that those people fit with your culture. And, I think that a lot of businesses get kind of desperate. And so they hire folks that probably aren't a good fit. So I would really caution against that and to make sure you have a good fit. And then, what sustains any of us in our careers? We want to earn a living wage. We want to have some kind of protection through benefits. We want to know we're valued through personal days off and time off. Your current employees are really great resources for you to mine for new employees
Mm,
because they're ones that you already know fit into
right.
your culture. So that's really good. And I
I
don't
think
know.
I think that's a good start. I think your point about culture is really important. And of all of the people we employ in spas, I think culture is probably most important to massage therapists. I mean, they really they do this to be good people, to have great effect, and they want to work in a place that values that.
Right.
Well, we all want to be valued, but I do think you need to be very careful about the culture that you're perpetuating and sharing for your business and caring for people. We're in the business of caring, and yet we want them to work 50 hours a week, which is unsustainable.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is these folks spend 80% of their time working behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
So, where you have a normal office environment of work, everybody's engaging, but these folks are
Collegial.
behind closed doors. Yeah. So you have to do extra special things to make sure they feel included and a part of the bigger picture.
Well, I love that about the title of your podcast, Outside the Room, because you're right. You do spend 80 or 90% of your day in a room with the door shut with someone that's probably not talking to you.
Right. Yeah. That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
But making them feel great. Well, CG, thanks again for joining us. We really value your insights and time, and hopefully we can attract more people to this amazing field.
Well, thanks, Lisa. I'll have to have you on Outside the Room next year. So
Oh, we'll see. Well, that'd be great. I have one closing question for you. What does CG stand for? I never knew that.
Cynthia Gay.
Cynthia Gay. Oh, simple. Okay. Well, we know her as CG. So, CG Funk, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa. It was great.
Great to have you.